Someone in this room that you don't know, they'll need to introduce themselves. But I think we did the introductions last time. And I know companies have different reps, so it may well be that it's a different person who's come in. But nevertheless, you guys is the geniuses, the elite of startup in terms of innovation, hence the MasterCard Foundation endorsement. I'm sure you are doing everything you can to continue to bond together. So we're here for systems change. That maybe it might be a good idea for us to have a session on this. Now, make no mistake about this. You can't cover system change in 2 hours. We cannot. We couldn't cover it in 2 days. In fact, we couldn't cover it in 2 weeks or months. It's something that is ongoing. But what I intend to do, I don't want to lecture about this because it's not about the lecture. I want to get you to think. So prepare yourself to really, really think and give opinions about system change. Once I've gone through the videos and a few explanations and we've had questions and answers. But I want to start with a story. And this story is mine, all right? This is my story. And it might mean that I give you some intimate details about me, details that I don't share very often with people. Because everyone has stuff that is quite intimate. They either share with close family members or close people in their lives, and you hide the rest. But I'm happy to share with you a story that is very personal to me, and it's my own journey. But this is because it's linked to system change. And at the time, I did not relate it to system change. In fact, the whole concept of system change wasn't packaged the way it is packaged today. And the story starts about 24 years ago. So 24 years ago, and this is system change, classic, without knowing it's system change. So 24 years ago, this is where I was. I spent 18 years of my life in this place in Nottingham City, in UK, as a leader in education. And at the time, is the laser going to work today? No, because it's a white screen, isn't it? So it won't even work on this building here. Never mind. Right. So what you're looking at here is something that we designed. Who is we? The leadership team that I was leading at the time, right? I was a principal. This was up to 4 years ago, up to 3 years ago when I decided to come back home. This was the largest academy school, not just in England, but in Western Europe. So 27 countries, no one had the size of that school that we created. I'll keep using we. Every time I say I'm wrong, because this was a big we. I had the most junior staff body. Most junior. I didn't have super experienced school leaders. Very junior, because my recruitment drive was to get young and energetic graduates to join my organization. So this is a big we. And we became very ambitious. England, at the turn of the millennium, England had decided that they were going to change how they approach education at foundational level. At higher level, it didn't matter. They had the Oxfords, the Cambridge, they had all their Russell Group universities. There wasn't a problem. But they felt lower down the chain, they had to change their approach. And this wasn't just about buildings. This was about buildings, what was happening inside the buildings, and most importantly, EdTech. How were they going to incorporate technology into the education system? Watch the words, yeah? Education technology. Buzzword now is what? EdTech. System change. That's our theme today. 20 years ago, that wasn't the language that was being used, certainly not in education. I was brought in because I was a systems engineer. I'm a telecoms engineer. That's my first degree. I was in telecoms. I was working for British Telecoms before I went back to university and did postgrad and got into education. That was my second life, professional life. So you can imagine, They brought in a young telecoms engineer to come and transform education. Quite ambitious, 24 years ago. We did I have to keep saying we. I was the top lead person for this organization, but massive team. Senior leaders, middle leaders, and juniors, but all sub 30 at the time, including myself. Now, what happened was, we went to the government, and this is where the difference is. And I want you to hang on every word I say. Because when we talk system change, I'm going to assign you. I'm going to push you towards the government. I'm going to push you, and not private. And this is why this story is quite valid. I didn't think that's what I was doing back then. I can reflect now and think, oh, crikey, that's where my mind was. But we went to the government and we say to them, if you want to transform a school to make it into a performing school, it's not just about the curriculum. It's not just about paying teachers more. It's not just about having fancy buildings. It's not just about buying technology. You will need to provide autonomy. That's all we ask for. Autonomy. Just an opportunity to make a difference. Because when you're leading a school, you are leading the community. That's the thinking out there. You're not going to school because, we're bored. You're going to school because if I give you a school in Dar es Salaam, and there won't be many, because these are government schools, if I give you into a locality, if I give you Temeke, and I put a school the size of that, I am tasking you with creating the social economy of Temeke. So it's not about creating grades. It's not about how many division ones have you got, how many people have passed. No, it's about what are the outcomes for learners. How are they going to come back into the community and build the economy for that place? That's the thinking right there. So we asked for autonomy. We said we want to get out of the local authority, so like you would have LGA, TAMISEMI here, come out of that and almost operate like a private entity. But we do that with funding from the government. So we are not a private school. So we became a trust, a foundation trust that received the money from the government, but we did not have to respond to anyone from local government authority because we felt that's where the breakdown was. They were managing thousands and thousands of schools and they didn't have the capacity. So fast forward, we asked for money and the buildings didn't look like that. They look like the schools look here. And we asked, the first thing was a program called BSF, Building Schools for the Future. We were one of the first. So we got 72 million pounds, and this is 2000, and I think by the time we started 2000, but by the time we got the money, it was 2006, 2007. It took that long. And we got 72 million pounds. So we did 2 campuses. One in St. Anne's, and we designed that off the Kuala Lumpur. So there's a bridge that connects these two. And then this one here was in Sneinton. Both were areas of Nottingham City that were deprived. And these buildings transformed the whole place. Just watching these buildings as schools. People could not believe, is that a university or is that a school? That is a school. We put 5,000 children. 5,000. That's the size of a university in a school. This is why it was the largest for many years. And we were so ambitious that these children here, who came from poor background, and yes, there is poverty in Europe. I know it's slightly different relativity, okay? The relative index of poverty is not measured by the fact that you can afford to wear Nike or a nice Adidas tracksuit. You could still be very poor because you're on welfare. Your parents are being funded to keep the roof over your head. So you're poor. And what we call the Idachi, that's how they do it in England. To measure poverty, they have an Idachi index that takes a lot of factors in. It's almost like an HDI, Human Development Index. And then they decide how poor you are. And this area, St. Anne's of Nottingham City, was the second poorest ward in the country. And that's out of thousands of wards. All right? And we were ambitious enough to say, these children deserve the best because their starting point is very low. So that's where we started from. So system, okay? We want to change the whole system and how it operates for them. And off we went. And you know what? 2 years in, we started to transform the outcomes. But I made a very right? I did say it's a we, isn't it? There was one thing that I brought to the table, and I said, here's the problem. The English system of education is 6 years in primary. We've done that for Tanzania now. It will be 6 years here and not 7. And there was no such thing as mtihani wa darasa la saba, that nonsensical PSLE that we had here. Okay? When you finished primary school, you were guaranteed to go to secondary school. Guaranteed. You didn't have to do any exam to say, nimepasi na kwenda darasa C form 1. No, everyone went to secondary school. Transition, you went. You got assessed, but the exam did not stop you from going through. So we had that system. Now, which we do in Tanzania now. Okay? So from next year, or the year after, there will be no more mtihani wa darasa la saba. Everyone will be able to go to secondary school. Now, here's the problem. The system in England was you have a class teacher. From standard 1 to standard 6, you have a class teacher. So that's the person who takes you through your whole year. So you might have a different class teacher in standard 2, standard 3, but it will be one person that you have to deal with. So you'll come in the morning, you'll be greeted, we'll check your welfare, see that you're well, you've had breakfast. That's the way the day started. Then you would have your literacy hour, where you do your reading, writing, speaking. Then you have your numeracy hour, where you do your adding and subtracting and takeaway. Then you have sports, you'd have lunch. So the school year went like that in the primary. There'll be plenty of opportunities for you to play, to practice music, to do a bit of drama, and science and all that stuff was in the periphery. And all this was done by a class teacher. And then, when you went to grade 7, equivalent to Form 1 here, you had to move to another school because your primary school ends there. And when you went to that secondary school, you would land, depending on where you were sent to the community, you would land into a school this size, massive. You would have to study 13 subjects. And you would have to get that from 13 teachers. You would go from having a classroom teacher into 13 individual subject teachers in 13 different rooms. So you're literally used to 6 years of, I go in, this is my classroom for year 1, and every day I come to school, aside from going to the washroom and playground and the canteen, this is where my learning takes place. And inside here, there's Miss Walters, my class teacher for this year. I don't need to know much about anyone else in this building, but Miss Walters. If I have a problem, I'll go to Miss Walters. And now, I'm arriving at a place, oh, by the way, at year 6, which is my final year of primary school, I'm the eldest. Everyone else is younger than me. When I go to the secondary, I'm the youngest, because everyone is older than me. And I have to learn 13 new teachers. I have to navigate this building. I had about 40 rooms or so. You went through the bridge there. I had 3 floors on there, 1 on there. It was all labeled ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. And I'm being told when the bell rings, I have to move from here, some classroom down here, go through the corridor, go up here, and then find B5. It was a nightmare for children. And no one had thought about that. Because that's what we went through. That's the system. Tough. I managed, you should manage. No one thought of how difficult. This was VUCA for them. It was a volatile environment. It was uncertain. They didn't know what was about to happen. It was complex and ambiguous to an extent. And everyone thought, oh, tough, go ahead. You go to secondary school in England when you're 11. You're only 11. You're not even a teenager. And people assume you can manage. Do you understand how hard it is to manage personalities of adults you don't know, you've never met, all 13 of them, and navigate a building you've never been in, and being told, hey, you're late, when you're lost? So I said, right, that's number one thing we're going to do. We're going to break that. And this is where autonomy is important. I didn't give a damn about any minister of education, whoever you are. This was our place. This was our house. You can do the policies, we'll follow them. You can do the curriculum, we'll follow them. But how we approach, so the internal system was ours to change as we see fit. And I was daring and brave and bold because everyone was like, well, because the system is very simple. You fail and you're gone. As a leader, you will be responsible and accountable. That's all they will say. Like a football team. If you follow the English football, where's Ten Hag? It doesn't matter what your profile is and how much money you're paid. You don't have outcomes, you will go. And actually they expect you, the Brits expect you to throw in the towel. They don't want to get rid of you. They want you to walk in and knock on the door and say, I am done. I have failed the children and the community of Serang. That's what is expected of you. Accountability isn't someone coming in and saying to you, you need to go. And that's why as soon as a team starts to fail and lose games, it's the people. It's not the management. It's not the owners who start to say, Ten Hag out, Mourinho out. Doesn't matter who they are or what they've done in the past. So this is the risk. So if I went in and I said, right, Mr. Kulaya, you're the principal, the largest academy in the country, in Western Europe. What do you think we should do here? You've got 5,000 young people under your watch. What are you going to do about this to make sure the outcomes are better? It's not working here. They're all involved in criminal gangs. They're selling drugs at Brewster's. They're doing everything that's wrong in a welfare state, which means the government is spending money to educate and spending money for welfare. You need to change that. Now, if you come up with an idea and it fails, you need to go. And we'll get someone else. So they'll pay you top dollars. I was earning so much, I didn't know what to do with the money. I had to get married and make babies. Children spend money quicker than adults. I had to do that. I didn't know. No, seriously. And I was probably in my early 30s. I wasn't even 32. I was so young. I was African. I was black. That's just not normal at the time because the discrimination and the racism that is happening, particularly for people of ethnic groups, and the denial of opportunities is something that is still ongoing, let alone back then. So it was quite unusual. And for many, many, many years, I used to think that set me up to fail. I used to have that behind the back. So I worked so hard. I've never worked harder than when I was doing this thing. But anyway, so I'm going to come to the end of this because I did say, I hope you're picking this up. This is not me. I've got the bragging rights. I can brag about this, but I've not even done an article about this. I've not even gone on the news, I think, to talk about this because it's as I reflect back now, I remember and I think about so many things that I didn't even think I was doing at the time. So this is not about bragging rights. I'm just talking systemic changes. So I did that. So I said, right, here's what we're going to do. So this is the week came in. So I challenged my team and we started to think about how can you do that? And they said, boss, what do you want? And I said, I just don't want children going to 13 rooms and talk to 13 adults in 13 subjects. I think it's mean. And they're tiny little things. They're only 11. I can't do it. I still don't know 13 names in this room. And it's the second time here. I know Angela because she hires me. That's my boss. But I might say she was soft. I know Pussy because he pesters me. For all the right reasons. Well, I need this. What do you think of this? Right? But imagine children. If you have children or but if you have nephews, nieces, doesn't matter. It's really difficult. They're tiny, they're scared. So I said, we're going to do this. We're going to break the subjects. That's the first thing you do. Because if you break the subjects, then we break the rooms and we break the number of teachers. So here's what I did. I said, we're going to introduce project-based learning. This is 20 years ago. Now PBL is something that everyone talks about. The universities, internationalization of the curriculum. PBL, project-based learning. Very simple. Every student in my school will do numeracy, call it maths, because now they're older. They'll do English, literacy, Aha, right. Not the change, right? Because I did say in the primary school, you do literacy, you do numeracy. So if I say you're going to do literacy and numeracy, which is maths and English, in the secondary, no child is going to feel apprehensive about it. Because, oh yeah, we've done 6 years of that. Cool. Then what's next? What are you going to do with science? Science has physics, chemistry, biology. What do you do in all of those? You're discovering. Humanities has geography, history. What is that all about? You're discovering the past in history, in structures and physical structures and all that in geography. So to be honest with you, I can combine them all. So that became project discovery. Okay? No longer are you doing physics, chemistry, biology, history, and geography. 5 subjects condensed into one project called discovery. You will be discovering in physics, in chemistry, in biology, and history and geography. So 5 rooms became 1. Then I said, right, what else have they got in the curriculum? Oh, they've got music and they've got drama. What do you do with music and drama? You perform. That's project performance. So that's 7 subjects now, 7 doors, 7 teachers into 2 rooms, 2 teachers. What else do they do? Oh, they do design and technology, they do art and all that. All right, okay, what do you do in there? You create. So project create. That's it, it's done. So now you have project discovery, project create, and project performance. And just like that, we wiped off 9 subjects, or 10 into 3. And the numeracy and literacy, it didn't bother me because they were used to that. It's almost like you're coming to the new school and you only have 3 new subjects. And they're not subjects, they're projects. And we were themic about it. So the first theme, as you walk to school starts in September over there. In September, when you walk in, the first project you're going to be involved with is project survival. Because I want you to survive this experience. So every one of those projects will be about survival. So if you're doing music, we'll welcome you in with I'm a Survivor, Destiny's Child. You guys are too young, you might not know that song. I might play Bob Marley then and get you really back. I'm a Survivor. Marley had that. Music. Drama, you would have a play about survival. If you went into discovery, we're going to Darwin's theory of evolution and all that. It's about survival. You went to play with PE, it was about survival. So you play games. So every one of those teachers were delivering the same theme in their respective fields, and they thrived. And I didn't have no exams. It was all about competencies. Now everyone talks about CBC, competence-based curriculum. Formative assessment, no exams. We assess you as you go. And the whole place just changed. And you did that for 2 straight years. So year 7 and 8, and you will be here in a base. So no one was allowed in this building. But there is little one. Protected. Not forever, just for 2 years. Because I have to cut them loose so they can cross the bridge and start from year 9, 10, and 11, 5 years of secondary school there, not 4. They will be now following the normal curriculum. By then, they would have acclimatized, they would have known each other, they would have known the people, they would have known the geography and how to navigate the buildings, they'll know where the toilets are, where the canteen are, where the playground is. They're ready. That's like your Form 2, Form 3, Form 3. You're ready, 4 or 5. Now, that, ladies and gentlemen, is an example of how you change a system. But the process is what I'll be talking to you about, right? But what was the outcome? The outcome was we started to perform to a point where the government came to us to give us the failing schools up and down the United Kingdom. In 2 years, we had 45 academies under us. So we became bigger than local government authorities. So the government says, right, why are we wasting time? You know, you have the formula, you have the blueprint. We've got a school down the road. We've got a school in Leicester. We have one in Northampton. Hey, we even have one in Skegness. Can you guys take over? Yeah, right. So principal is fired. That's the first thing. That's the first person who goes. When your school is taken over, the principal has to go. You have to go because we have to clean up. So I started to lead multiple academies. I was no longer stationed here now. I'll be driving up and down the country to put this blueprint elsewhere. So we became really, really successful. And there were many trophies. But one of the big, so the proof is in the pudding. So you see this guy? You know him, huh? Prince Harry. Yeah. Now he's, at the time, he was the Queen's grandson. Now he's the King's son. The Queen passed away. So that guy came to me. And this was pre-Meghan, I should say, pre-Meghan Harry, before the whole Meghan thing. I think they were dating, but it wasn't official. And he came to me because someone else, he didn't come to me personally as in he knew me, but someone was saying that place there in St. Anne's where he had a project, knife crime was heavy. You know, time and again, I'm talking successes, but there were a lot of challenges. I'll be in the morning and the phone will ring at 8 o'clock and they'll say, that's early in England, 8 o'clock, especially in the winter, it's still dark. And someone ring me and I'll be in the office and they'll say, right, it's the police officer from Roosters down in St. Anne's. Can you come out into Ransom Road, which was the main road, this small little hill leading up to this place, and says, can you come and pick one of yours has been stabbed? And that's a GCSE exam day. Someone was walking up to come to school with blood all over them. We take them to... Knife crime is heavy in England. It still is. It's actually gotten worse since I left. Teenagers pack knives and they knife each other like crazy for no good reason. So these were the challenges. And Prince Harry was involved. And London is just the worst when it comes to knife crime. And he's an old teenager. He was doing a lot of initiatives around it. But he was saying, I need to find a school that has children who should be behaving like this, but they are not. Because I had no knife crime in my school. I had no violence in there. I went for 6 years without excluding any child. And nationally, especially for black children, they were 6 times more likely to be excluded from school permanently. And I had the demographic. 25% of my population was black. So most of the kids and mixed race were in my school. So he wanted to know who was the person who was leading this. And that's how we started, building that relationship. So he'll come. I mean, if they usually do one place once in their lifetime, they don't come back. And his bodyguards will tell me, and it's quite a big thing when they come to your place. The record itself is the army is involved, the police, and it's Metropolis. They use the London police, not the local ones. It's a big, big, huge thing. But he started to come again and again. And then one day, his team would come first. He came up, the team came up, and I said, I could not believe it, because I'd gone to a point where I knew his bodyguard. And they came up and say to me, you won't believe what he wants you to do. And he says, he's going to get engaged to Meghan. And when they get engaged, the royal family, they have to do 2 things. They have a personal, private, family-only engagement event, and then they have a public event where they go to the public, and they have to choose a city where they will appear in public with whoever it is that's supposed to be, and someone has to host. And he says, he's chosen Nottingham City, and he wants you to host. Now, that's a big ask, huge. And I can't force me. Like I've said, I had full autonomy. I can turn him down, not a problem. But then there was a theme here. He was getting married to a black woman. The first thing in royal family, didn't have that. And how would I manage the logistics? And my CEO, because I wasn't CEO, I was a senior leader, but there was a CEO for the foundation, Wayne. And Wayne called me up and he said, you know what, Henry, he's been to you 3 times. And every time he comes in, it's a big publicity. He says, this is too big for you. Because the media alone is from 80 countries, 80. The Meghan controversy that is about to marry a black woman even makes the whole thing even bigger. And he says, you're running a school. This will be too disruptive. And he said, just think about it, because I want to make a decision. He can't force me. He's my CEO, can't force me. I'll make the decision. It's mine. Me and my team will decide. And we decided. I went back home that night and I said to my wife, I said, you know what? Can you believe it? Because this was in the news like crazy. I'm sure it was in the news here as well. And my wife says, what do you mean? He says, don't do it. Don't do what? And I said, look, the boss says, I should do it. This is too much for me. And my wife says, are you crazy? He says, he's jealous. Do it. Do it. You've done so much work for that place. That's an opportunity. You didn't go asking them, so we did it. Okay? And that's that picture over here. That's Meghan there, that's me. So we did a big, thing in the assembly hall. These are all different days that he kept coming in. He would come in with trainers and jeans, just one bodyguard, and he'll sneak in through the back and come to my office. We just drink coffee. No paparazzi. So that story, that was my Fine. System change, right? This was about how do you change the system to a point where you get the outcomes, and how are you going to go about doing it within the team, organizationally, not me as me. And then you get that. But you know what? Gift and a curse. As soon as I got to that point, I knew what the risk was. The risk was being knighted, getting an OBE, and then I'm not allowed to operate anywhere outside the United Kingdom without the permission of the royal family and the Queen at the time, King now. And I started thinking, my appetite was for, I was forever coming back home. Been trying to get back to Tanzania to do some education things since 2007, because I had the blueprint. I had EdTech at that point. I was already winning. And I still kept my proposal that I wrote in 2007 to the Ministry of Education, and it says this: improving the quality of education through the use of ICT. They didn't understand that at all. This was 17 years ago, and I went everywhere to the minister and everyone else, and they shook their heads and said, kulaya, that's too ambitious. We are not ready for that in Tanzania. And I said, yes, you are. They said, no, we're not. I said, it's too expensive. And I said, it's not about the money. I've done it. But aside from asking me to say shikamoo every time I walked into a room, which I wasn't saying shikamoo, I still don't say shikamoo. And they hated that. Who you don't go to, all that nonsense. And I'm thinking, what's my age got to do with it? I'm sure you're facing that. You guys are so brilliant, but I bet you there'll be people who are stopping you because they're thinking you're too young. They want you to lose all your hair. I was a dreadlock person. And look at me now. This is what education is. So look after your hair, enjoy it. Kusi has already lost it. I don't know what it's going to look like when it gets to my age. Jokes. So yeah, so that was great. But then I had to break out of this cycle because my ambition was to still come back home. I didn't care. And I don't mean come back home as in I was a refugee and then I'd moved over to England. I just meant come and operate here and do some systems changes here. That's what, that was my ambition. I was coming here like 3 times a year, leisurely. Once I've spoken to people who are telling me, I'm not Tanzania, mambo ya Ulaya. And I'm looking at them and I'm thinking, mambo ya Ulaya, I did it. And I'm Tanzanian to the core. What's Ulaya got to do with this? This is just strategy. There's nothing more to this. Anyone can do this. The Brits have given me an opportunity despite the discriminations that are happening to the ethnic group. So why wouldn't you give me a chance? And anyway, so I was coming back home and then I thought this is now a problem. So I broke out. And in 2019, 2018, I came in, started Launchpad and started to advise the government. The rest is history. And you know what? That's a trophy. That is a trophy. And I don't brand this around too much, but he finished off we had so much in common, I came to realize. First and foremost, his name is just like me. He's not Harry. His name is Henry. He told me that. He said, my name is Henry. Harry is a nickname. And then we realized how much we both loved hip hop because I'm a big hip hop enthusiast. I've got my other life. Don't ask me to rap. I won't do that unless you pay me very well. And yeah, so we hit it off really well. And when the fallout with the royal family came and he decided to ditch the royal family because they were mistreating his wife because she was black, and he emigrated to the United States, wrote a book. And that was and I can remember being in England one time. At that time, I'd come back home. So I went back and the Guardian rang me. It's a big newspaper there. It is here as well. Say, are you part of the reason why he's defected? Because you're black and he's married a black woman and he's going crazy. That's what they would say when you're being you. But I wasn't surprised at all because in many conversations I had with him, I could see it in him. And he taught me, they have to train you on how to say hello to royal family. There's royal etiquette, and you have to say he's HRH, His Royal Highness. So you have to say Your Royal Highness and bow. And when I did that, because he's coming a lot, he slapped my hand off and he said, forget all that nonsense. Just call me Henry. We're the same. So he called me Coach Carter. That's what he used to call me. He didn't call me Henry. He said, you're Coach Carter. Seen that movie with Samuel Jackson about the high school? Go find it. When you're leading a school full of people with talent, you need to balance the act. They're great basketballers, but the head teacher was saying, it's okay to play basketball, but I want you to get educated as well. You can do both. So he was saying, what you're doing here for this environment is there's a lot of talent here with these black children particularly, because they're the majority, but you're making sure that they're getting the educational outcomes regardless of what. So you call, what's up, Coach Carter? And that's what I mean. So he says the whole His Royal Highness and all that went out the window. We were very much on first name basis. So that was a trophy. But I'll tell you the bigger trophy is that in 2021, I delivered that. There was a team, okay? Now I say but I was the lead consultant from UNICEF at the time who delivered the education sector development plan, which is running all the way to 2026. It's been reviewed now because of the new curriculum and the new policy. We need more money because you go and do all. But that is the current, and I was the lead consultant for that. And prior to that, I did the ESSA education sector analysis for the country, and I was the lead consultant. And that's the bit now where it changed, okay? Systemically. It changed because it went from me asking if I can do this and that into being given a huge responsibility. And that hasn't stopped. That hasn't stopped. Currently, and you're recording this, and that's why I can't tell you what I'm doing currently. So I'm going to pause that and not say tell you because you're recording. But that to me is bigger. I'm more proud of this than the whole Prince Harry and all the successes in England because that's my own nation. The patriotic pride in being able to deliver something like this with a team is great. But that was system change massively. That led into where we are today. Right, so after I bored you for about half an hour with my story, I think the hook there is systems and system change, right? I have a strong sense of belief in myself that we can alter any system in the world. Any system. Yes, we can. But I also have a very strong sense of belief that you cannot do it alone. You cannot do it. However radical you want to be, you can't do it alone. So I'm going to stress on this issue of you collaborating, including those in the room and online and beyond, those who are not here. So what do we mean by system? What system is your startup solution involved with? And what are the components of that system? We are now going interactive, yeah? The lecturing is gone. My story now you have. And feel free to share. Someone says, do you know Henry Kulaya? Just say, namjua sana yule jamaa. Alifanya mambo fulani pale Nottingham. Claim it. Na mimi naweza tukafanya makubwa zaidi yake. Asitaki kujifanya kafanya sana, sisi pia tunafanya makubwa. I want that. I want to challenge you to do better. Sasa, what system are you guys involved with? This is a question. I want an answer. We're going to play a video shortly. It's 8 minutes long. Please focus on that video because it will tell you all the answers. Like, what system are you guys involved with?
We have to we have to go through the flows and try to because, as you said, the problems are too complex. So we have to pick apart the flows and start to like fix the problems one step at a time.
Thank you. Anyone wants to add to that? System has flaws, and like I've said, the world is complex, and therefore we have to fix the components. Why is this important? This is important because every time I was trying to come back home to speak about change, I felt there was resistance. Do you know why? Because no one wants to be told that their system has flaws or is broken. But if you change it and turn it on its head and say, look, the world is changing and becoming VUCA, and we are trying to make sure to adapt to the changes that are happening in the education landscape, that narrative changes. You're not pointing a finger at a leader saying your system is broken. Your system is flawed. People don't want to hear that. But no one can argue with the fact that in 2020, the world got hit with a pandemic, schools were shut down, and we had, collectively, had to do something about that, educate, and then we started thinking about online and stuff like that. Now, you didn't point the finger at anyone and say, you're a really bad Minister of Health or Education because children can't. You simply responded to that. So I want you to use that. That's the way you do it. Don't go around telling people that their schools are shit. Sorry, I swear there. You can edit that. Just put bleep. But just say the situation is really bad. And therefore, I'm trying to do something about it, like Mutabi said. All right, so to that said, I'm going to play this video. Please focus. Don't, it's going to be 8 minutes long, but you can, 8 minutes is not bad. You watch a lot of nonsense on Instagram and Reels, I think for 80 probably minutes every bloody 2 hours. I'm beginning to swear now, so I'm tired. The video will tell you what the system is, what the components of the system is, see how it resonates with what it is doing, because there'll be another video after that, which is going to take you through system change. We'll take questions and we'll wrap up. So this is where it ends now. But the punchline is here. So think about what this video says. Take some notes because I'll be asking questions in the end. But the questions won't be what did they say at 2 minutes and 35 seconds. I won't ask you something like that. Okay? That's the old education system that we're doing away with. Cramming and regurgitating. Just think about the nuggets that you take from this. Sound man or tech man, go for it. Hopefully it holds and hopefully it is. Guys, how was that? That's just defining the system and the components. Formal and informal components. Did that hit home? Then here some reflection, thoughts, with reactions before I ask any questions. Online, this is for you too. So I don't know how we're managing online. Is there someone watching hands up? Just so we don't neglect it. I'll need to hear from them as well. But we can start from the room. If they're, sure. Online, did you hear that? If you have a question, you unmute and ask. We'll pause and wait for you. But we're taking one from Tabi. Go ahead. And then this is for everyone. This is reflection, thoughts, reactions. What do you feel after watching this? You feel like, I know it all anyway. I've not anything new or whatever it is. Feel free to share. Karibu. Tabi, you start us off and then we'll keep going.
Okay, so the biggest takeaway from this video is systems thinking and breaking down a system into components. So one thing I've realized is that most of when we try to solve problems, most of the times we don't really look at it in a systems level and try to break it down to components. So that's my biggest takeaway.
Excellent, and that's a very good one. I hope everyone has taken that. All right? When we're trying to solve problems, did you see how it was the very end of the video where she says, only then can you start thinking about what problem needs to be solved. Only then can you say, why are we stuck in the status quo? Because you have to examine those formal and informal components. Someone else. Online, is anyone unmuted? Thoughts, reflections from the video? Oh, they've gone to sleep.
Hello?
Wilson? Is that you?
Yeah, this is Wilson.
Karibu.
Yeah. Awesome. So from the video, actually, the reflection is all about how we can be able to focus on the real challenge, because as we are looking to a system as a whole, it might be very difficult to understand the real challenge, because you might be dealing with the outcome while the real problem you haven't attached it. So once you have broken down the system into its component, then it's easier to realize that, so this is the challenge. So maybe let's take an example from the story about agriculture, or maybe sector as a system. When you might see the farmers, they are not getting good income once they are selling. You might think maybe because of the market, but in real, when you break down into components, you might find maybe they are spending a lot of money for maybe the seeds and whatever. So once you break down the system into its components, it's easier to spotlight and to identify the real challenge. Then you do it well. So that's what I've got from the
Thank you, Wilson.
scenarios. Thank you.
Thank you. That's spot on. That is really spot on. Anyone else? You heard him? Yeah, loud and clear. Components. He's focusing on components. Karibu Kusi.
Yeah, on my end, I think
Hello?
Or is someone else coming online? Or
it's Wilson.
no, Wilson, we are done with you. Thank you. You can mute now. Thank you for your contribution.
Okay, I think
Kusi, karibu.
on my end, the video has been informative, and it may be sometimes we think small because we don't understand how the system is and how does it work. We're limited with what we know and from our own experiences. So breaking down the whole systems becomes you know where to target, who to talk to, so you can have bigger impact and even achieve larger scale than how you thought.
Okay, thank you. Sometimes I'm quoting you. Sometimes we think small because we don't quite understand the system components. I'm quoting Kusi, but well said there. Right? You walk into a school and you offer your product. How do you know that the product would work if you don't even know the components that cause the problem in the first place? Or conversely, we think, you see that bit on the image where that person was overwhelmed. You can't change the whole world. They're not talking literally about the earth. They're talking about that world that you're trying to change. And if it's the world of secondary schools in a locality or primary schools in a region or in a district, that is the world you're trying to change, okay? Small, little, tiny, little words in the universe. Now, that's the bit, isn't it, that we need to think about. Either we think too small or we think this is too big. And when I was talking to you about when I was coming back in 2007 at the time, when I'd had my blueprint and my prototype in England, they all felt, whoever I was speaking to at the time, felt like this was a huge, big well that we cannot even tackle and try to. It was easier for them to just keep going. Karim, I saw your hand up. Thoughts, reflections. What's your name?
Arnold.
Arnold.
Yeah.
Have you text me on WhatsApp?
No.
Why not? You're the only one who hasn't. Don't you like me?
No.
Don't respond. I'm just being sarcastic. Like the Brits taught me to be. I don't mean any of that. I don't even remember. Who's text me? Kusi, don't put your hand up. Because you're constantly pestering me. I'm having a go at him. He doesn't do that. He's very professional about his. Who has texted me on WhatsApp from the number I left last time? You have. You read the memo. Some people here are still asleep. Online, did anyone text me? I'm sure someone did. Right, there's the answer. Arnold, Karim. Yes, reflections, thoughts.
I was thinking about the value chain. They were looking at the value chain, everyone involved. As you may see, like these people, maybe this organization is not involved while it is. Maybe the problem is coming from them. So it is good to look everyone involved. Like those in agriculture, you can see that they look even in transport, finance, everyone. Maybe the problem you may be thinking it is within the education, while maybe it's coming from the other ministries or maybe other institutions which you didn't consider. So if you take into consideration, you break it down and look every agent or every institution that is involved, then you can see the problem very clear.
Excellent. Arnold, that's really good. I was hoping someone would mention that. VUCA, yeah? Complex. You might think it's just about seeds or irrigation schemes, and suddenly it's the Ministry of Finance, the relationship, is the powers, mindsets. There's so much that is at play, and you might go in and say, all I need to do is to find the money for seeds, or to put a state-of-the-art irrigation system that is automated, only to find out problems were way bigger than that. And you then feel like you have failed. But you haven't failed, it's just that you didn't do your homework before you attacked it. Right, let's try and see how many people got these components then of the system. Can we start to mention them? Just throw them away. Okay, there was plenty. The formal one, and then we'll go to the informal ones. It's less of the informal ones. Go on. Name one. Online, you're welcome to also name. Throw at me all those formal components of the system. Institutions or organizations, yes. Laws, yes. It was there. Finances, yes. Feedback loop, yes.
Accountability mechanisms.
Was that there?
Yeah. It was, yeah, something like that.
Design implementation, yes. Accountability was there. What else? The formal ones. Didn't anyone take a picture of that thing? Angel is smart. So you can read them straight, isn't it? And you check for me if we missed anything. Yes, keep going. Human resources, absolutely. Human-centered, HR. Key. What people are involved. Keep going. Online, anyone? Did you get any? Wilson? Emiliana? Joyce, if she's joined? Okay, Angela, finish them off then. Just the formal ones. Decision making.
That's what I did.
Data, yeah? Data was key. Right. Those are all formal. There was only about 4, I think, for the informal, if I'm not mistaken. Let's have the informal ones. The word that we all use now almost everywhere you go. Mindset. Morals. Culture. Right? And finally, relationships. How big is that? It's not what you know, it's who you know. And the relationships you have. Partnerships. How many of you considered even half of these components as you were devising and designing your solution? I know you thought about the problem. I want to create e-learning modules so I can place them on an LMS, so I can create access anytime, anywhere, as long as there is connectivity. Thank you, that's great. But have you considered relationships? HR, feedback loops, the laws, as you're designing your package, and the informal stuff. What are the relationships like in this local authority? What is the head teacher like to the members of staff? What is the community involvement in education in that particular school that you're targeting, or district, or region? What's the organizational culture? Because I'll tell you now, that is where it breaks. What's the morale, the moral compass that they have in that school? What are the finances like? I'm sure you've considered finances because you need to invest and you need to get, return on your investment. I think all of you would have considered finances. But do you understand the source of revenue in these schools you're targeting for your solution? You might assume, but do you understand how the capitation grant works? The inequities that exist. The urban and rural dichotomies that exist. The disadvantaged groups that exist. Same ward, same district, same region, same nation. You could have a lot of inequities based on these components, both formal and informal. Did you consider them? Or was it a business plan? Because we're very good, you're sharp, business plan. You're going to do that. When I read your portfolios, you're clear. $100,000 first year. Well, what's scaling like? Multiply. That's all business jargon, isn't it? But what's the reality on the ground? Do you have data about the needs? And that's your system before you think about changing it. Do you understand it? Where the failures are and why the status quo continues? Why we went for 60 years of PSLE filtering over 70% of the children, ending them at the primary level, tender age of 12, 13, you have failed. That's systemic. Someone has to be bold and brave and say, look, it's fee-free basic education for all children in Tanzania, and therefore they will get 10 years, 11 years, whatever, of free education. They all have to go. That's understanding the system. Then you change it. It took us 3-4 years to break that in hard negotiations, the hard talk. We did it, but we had to understand what was the problem. When I sat there doing the ESTP with the team in Tango, we got locked away. I grew hair. I kid you not. Because we were in there, just going through the system, every component. What's the problem? With people saying the problem, there's no problem. Some people say there's no problem. That education system is all right. This is fit for Tanzania. But what about 20? What about the vote? It doesn't matter. This is good. This is good. This is what I had in the 60s and 70s. This is good. It turned me into a director. So the children, if they follow this, because I did that in the 70s and the 80s, then they'll be okay. Even in 2050, yes. Even in 2050, yes. Why? Because we did that from 1960s. For 40 years, yeah. And you think we've progressed? Yes, we have. I'm successful. System works. My children are successful. Yeah, but they go to a private school. Doesn't matter. It works. So that's where the relationships, this informal stuff, the culture, the mindset can break. You could cover all this, all the formal ones. You could tick a box: finances, human resources, accountability. You could tick them all off. But the informal one, only 4, would crash the whole entire system or keep it at a plateau level. Right. Okay. So I challenge you to go back and reconsider what system, education system, yes. But what are the components of the system that you are tackling? Your solution is tackling, because you can't tackle the whole thing. But have you considered it? All right. Moving on. Go ahead.
The components.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what if in the system,
Mm-hmm.
the components are all not clear. Like when you started implementing the system, the feedbacks were very negative. They can't use the system. They don't have smartphone. They don't have internet. Also, we don't have the resources to buy them the laptops to the schools or whatsoever. But the data we do have, we do have the resource, we do have the finance, the law is backing up us. How do we navigate through all that?
Right, that's a $1 million question, isn't it? How do you navigate through all these? And I think there's 2 ways I'm going to answer that, right? That informal. Let me start on the informal. Relationships. What relationships exist for the client that you're trying to serve? Because you're coming from a business perspective. Who is your client? Now, if your client is a private school, this is much easier to fix, because it's literally one-on-one with the lead person, and then they will deal with the parents who are paying. And then we need these, but how are we going to get the funding? If your client happens to be a Tanzanian child in a public school setting, then it's super complex, because it's no longer one-on-one. It's not about the head teacher. It is about the head teacher, because they're in the formal HR. But the informal side of things is, what's the relationship like? Because you've got to understand, Tanzania has a very complex education system, because we have dual ministries. Zanzibar less so, but you have Ministry of Education, Science and Technology, then you have PORA, which TAMISEMI. TAMISEMI owns the schools, MOES owns the education. So what's the relationship? You can't go to one and ignore the other. But also is, how are they working together? So your understanding of that, the complexities of the system, would help you to start thinking, how do you change that system? Because you quickly realize it's not just about you. because the complexities of the system require for you to start looking at all these components, informal, informal. And that's the reason why I want you to think about this. What is your solution trying to change about the system? Because simplistically, you might tell me that you're creating a school information system, an SIS of sorts. That's you guys?
SMS.
SIS. Who's doing SIS? Who's doing school information system? Who is doing this admin system? It's 2 or 3 of you are doing that. There's a school administration system where you record and you have reports generated for attendance. Isn't that you guys?
Yes.
Exactly. So that's an SIS. Technically speaking, it's called an SIS. School administration system, some call it SAS. But, right, so what are you trying to change about the system? What are you trying to change about the system for your product? Do you understand the question I'm asking? I'm not asking what your product is intending to do. I get that. I know what Smart Darasa's product is trying to do. But I'm asking you, Mtabe, I know what your system is trying to do. Sorry, your product, I know what it's trying to do. Because I've read all your things. Nitz, I know what your product is trying to do. But what system, what are you changing about the education system? Is that clear? Is my question clear? So don't tell me that, oh, my solution is to create e-learning modules in STEM subjects so I can promote provision of teaching and learning and outcomes in STEM. I get that. And yes, it's loud and clear. That's your product. But what are you changing about the system? Because something must have triggered you, unless you're all about money. So you found a loophole. You want to get money, so I'm going to make a product. To hell with what it does, they'll pay me. Subscription fee for every school, $1 million shillings a year. I'm going to find as many schools as I can. There's 25,000 of them in Tanzania. I can make a lot of money. That could be what you're about. But what are you changing about the system with your product, with your solution? Yes.
I think one of the things we're trying to change about the system is accessibility.
Right. So
Yeah.
you want to make education more accessible to more children.
Yes.
Do you guys agree? Because he's speaking on behalf of you. Is accessibility the issue you're trying to change about the system? Yes. Even I know that. You are making education more accessible. But it's not the only thing. But that's one thing that you want to change. So this is how you think in terms of the challenges you're facing and how you go forward. Now, let me take you through the process. I'm conscious of time. Let me take you through the system change process. And then once we've done that video, we are able then to discuss the end, because you will know how to approach it at a systemic level. We've defined the system with components, formal and informal. Now we want to be asking ourselves this question at the end by seeing how we do it. Mr. Technician, can you now play us video 2, please? This is also 8 minutes long, but after here, then we are now able to start thinking about takeaways. What are we going to do? So this video is well, the first one was equally as important. You don't change the system when you don't understand what the system means, but you also certainly, yeah, good. We're aiming to finish at 11:30 because we started at 10:30. We were half an hour late. Is that all right? Or have you got something else? Is that all right, Angel?
Yeah. Since they're late, the first time of visit.
Sawa. Poleni, lakini it will be a disservice if I stop here. It's 11 now, but we started so late and it wouldn't be right. Okay, so video number 2, please do the same. If you feel that there is something you need to write, go ahead and write. But this is system change. People level outcome, system level outcomes, organizational or institutional level outcomes. That's your magic triangle. So you think about system of today, then you jump and you think system of the future. That's the way it works. Every time. You know what? You're not going to stop the solution you have now. You guys will create more and more as the system changes, as the VUCA world becomes more complex. But you need to think about what is the system of today and really think about it. Don't just go around assuming. Do you understand the system of today? Can you dream about the system of the future? What strategies are you going to take to get us there, and what organizations are going to be involved? System change. That's how it works. It's that simple. So my challenge to you as I wrap up now, time's up. How will you apply the system change process to optimize the impact of your solution? That's what your homework is. Organizationally, you as the lead person in your organization, but all the rest of them. What might you change about your approach now that you have a better understanding of system change and what system is? What might you change? That's not saying change your product, change your solution. No, what might you change about your approach? Those changamotos, those challenges, right? Those bottlenecks that you're hitting might require that you change your approach. But don't change that approach without understanding system change. You are not trying to push a product. You are trying to change the system. That's what I want you to mindset. What is your EdTech solution? I'm doing this. Yeah, we get that. But what are you trying to change about the system? Accessibility, yes. But have you got the understanding? What are your system level outcomes? What are your people? Start with that. What are the people level outcomes? What are the system level outcomes? What are organization level outcomes? Write them down. Does your solution offer these, or might you need to change your approach? With that, I would like to thank you again, and those online, I want you to strongly encourage you to continue thinking in this way. This in many ways is your mindset change as well for you. It really doesn't ask you to change the product that you have. No, I think you've all got the right product, and MasterCard Foundation has endorsed you. Sahara Consult has endorsed you. Many others that you're working with on a day-to-day basis have endorsed you. You've got the right product. But is your approach right? Is it systemic enough? That's my challenge to you, because they go hand in hand. Unless you're a product pusher, like someone comes out and says, oh, it's raining. I'm selling some umbrellas. What happens when the rain stops? Systems don't stop.